Preface to The Golden Gems of Life. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Golden Gems of Life by Emory Adams Allen and S.C. Ferguson. Preface. The design of this work is to rouse to honourable effort those who are wasting their time and energies through indifference to life's prizes. In the furtherance of this aim, the authors have endeavoured to gather from all possible sources the thoughts of those wise and earnest men and women who have used their pens to delineate life and its possibilities, its joys and its sorrows. They do not claim to have furnished more than the setting in which are placed these gems of thought gathered thus from sources widely different. Their hope is that they may be able to rouse in the minds of the careless a sense of the value of existence. To those who are striving nobly for true manhood or womanhood, they would fain bring words of encouragement. They trust that many may derive from its pages inspirations which will serve to make real their hopes of success and happiness. Cincinnati, January 1st, 1880. End of preface.
Section 1 of The Golden Gems of Life. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Golden Gems of Life by Emory Adams Allen and S.C. Ferguson. Section 1. Life. We can conceive of no spectacle better calculated to lead the mind to serious reflections than that of an aged person who has misspent a long life, and who, when standing near the end of life's journey, looks down the long vista of his years, only to recall opportunities unimproved. Now that it is all too late, he can plainly see where he passed by in heedless haste the real gems of life, in pursuit of the glittering gewgaws of pleasure, but which, when gained, like the apples of Sodom, turn to ashes in his very grasp. What a different course would he pursue, would time but turn backwards in his flight, and he be allowed to commence anew to weave the tangled web of life. But this is not vouchsafed him. Regrets are useless, save when they awaken in the minds of youth a wish to avoid errors, and a desire to gather only the true jewels of life. Life, with its thousand voices wailing and exulting, reproving and exalting, is calling upon you. Arouse and gird yourself for the race. Up and onward, and waking, be awake to sleep no more. Not alone by its ultimate destiny, but by its immediate obligations, uses, enjoyment, and advantages, must be estimated the infinite and untold value of life. It is a great mission on which you are sent. It is the choicest gift in the bounty of heaven committed to your wise and diligent keeping, and is associated with countless benefits and priceless boons which heaven alone has power to bestow. But alas, its possibilities for woe are equal to those of weal. It is a crowning triumph or a disastrous defeat, garlands or chains, a prison or a prize. We need the eloquence of Ulysses to plead in our behalf, the arrows of Hercules to do battle on our side. It is of utmost importance to you to make the journey of life a successful one. To do so, you must begin with the right ideas. If you are mistaken in your present estimates, it is best to be undeceived at the first, even though it cast a shadow on your brow. It is true that life is not mean, but it is grand, it is also a real and earnest thing. It has homely details, painful passages, and a crown of care for every brow. We seek to inspire you with a wish and a will to meet it with a brave spirit. We seek to point you to its nobler meanings and its higher results. The tinsel with which your imagination has invested it will all fall off of itself so soon as you have fairly entered on its experience. So we say to you, take up life's duties now. Learn something of what life is before you take upon yourself its great responsibilities. Great destinies lie shrouded in your swiftly passing hours. Great responsibilities stand in the passages of everyday life. Great dangers lie hidden in the bypaths of life's great highway. Great uncertainty hangs over your future history. God has given you existence, with full power and opportunity to improve it and be happy. He has given you equal power to despise the gift and be wretched. Which you will do is the great problem to be solved by your choice and conduct. Your bliss or misery in two worlds hangs pivoted in the balance. With God and a wish to do right in human life, it becomes essentially a noble and beautiful thing. Every youth should form at the outset of his career the solemn purpose to make the most and the best of the powers which God has given him, and to turn to the best possible account every outward advantage within his reach. This purpose must carry with it the assent of the reason, the approval of the conscience, the sober judgment of the intellect. It should thus embody within itself whatever is vehement in desire, inspiring in hope, thrilling in enthusiasm, and intense in desperate resolve. To live a life with such a purpose is a peerless privilege, no matter at what cost of transient pain or unremitting toil. It is a thing above professions, callings, and creeds. It is a thing which brings to its nourishment all good, and appropriates to its development of power all evil. It is the greatest and best thing under the whole heavens. Place cannot enhance its honor. Wealth cannot add to its value. Its course lies through true manhood and womanhood, through true fatherhood and motherhood, through true friendship and relationship of all legitimate kinds, of all natural sorts whatever. It lies through sorrow and pain and poverty and all earthly discipline. It lies through unswerving trust in God and man. It lies through patient and self-denying heroism. It lies through all heaven-prescribed and conscientious duty, and it leads as straight to heaven's brightest gate as the path of a sunbeam leads to the bosom of a flower. Many of you today are just starting on the duties of active life. The volume of the future lies unopened before you. Its covers are illuminated by the pictures of fancy, and its edges are gleaming with the golden tints of hope. Vainly you strive to loosen its wondrous clasp. 'Tis a task which none but the hand of time can accomplish. Life is before you, not earthly life alone, but life, a thread running interminably through the warp of eternity. It is a sweet as well as a great and wondrous thing. Man may make life what he pleases, and give it as much worth, both for himself and others, as he has energy for. The journey is a laborious one, and you must not expect to find the road all smooth. And whether rich or poor, high or low, you will be disappointed if you build on any other foundation. Take life like a man. Take it just as though it was, as it is, an earnest, vital, essential affair. Take it just as though you personally were born to the task of performing a merry part in it, as though the world had waited for your coming. Live for something, and for something worthy of life and its capabilities and opportunities, for noble deeds and achievements. Every man and every woman has his or her assignments in the duties and responsibilities of daily life. We are in the world to make the world better, to lift it up to higher levels of enjoyment and progress, to make the hearts and homes brighter and happier by devoting to our fellows our best thoughts, activities, and influences. It is the motto of every true heart and the genius of every noble life that no man liveth to himself, lives chiefly for his own selfish good. It is a law of our intellectual and moral being that we promote our own real happiness in the exact proportions we contribute to the comfort and happiness of others. Nothing worthy the name of happiness is the experience of those who live only for themselves, all oblivious to the welfare of their fellows. That only is the true philosophy which recognizes and works out the principle in daily life that life was lent for noble deeds. Life embraces in its comprehensiveness a just return of failure and success as the result of individual perseverance and labor. Live for something definite and practical. Take hold of things with a will, and they will yield to you and become the ministers of your own happiness and that of others. Nothing within the realm of the possible can withstand the man or woman who is intelligently bent on success. Every person carries within the key that unlocks either a door of success or failure. Which shall it be? All desire success. The problem of life is its winning. Strength, bravery, dexterity, and unfaltering nerve and resolution must be the portion and attribute of those who resolve to pursue fortune along the rugged road of life. Their path will often lie amid rocks and crags, and not on lawns and among lilies. A great action is always preceded by a great purpose. History and daily life are full of examples to show us that the measure of human achievements has always been proportional to the amount of human daring and doing. Deal with questions and facts of life as they really are. What can be done and is worth doing, do with dispatch. What cannot be done or would be worthless when done, leave for the idlers and dreamers along life's highway. Life often presents us with a choice of evils instead of good, and if anyone would get through life honorably and peacefully, he must learn to bear as well as forbear, to hold the temper in subjection to the judgment, and to practice self-denial in small as well as great things. Human life is a watchtower. It is the clear purpose of God that everyone, the young especially, should take their stand on this tower, to look, listen, learn, wherever they go and wherever they tarry. Life is short, and yet for you it may be long enough to lose your character, your constitution, or your estate. Or, on the other hand, by diligence you can accomplish much within its limits. If the sculptor's chisel can make impressions on marble in a few hours which distant eyes shall read and admire, if the man of genius can create work in life that shall speak the triumph of mind 1,000 years hence, then may true men and women, alive to the duty and obligations of existence, do infinitely more. Working on human hearts and destinies is their prerogative to do imperishable work, to build within life's fleeting hours monuments that shall last forever. If such grand possibilities lie within the reach of our personal actions in the world, how important that we live for something every hour of our existence, and for something that is harmonious with the dignity of our present being and the grandeur of our future destiny. A steady aim, with a strong arm, willing hands, and a resolute will, are the necessary requisites to the conflict which begins anew each day, and writes upon the scroll of yesterday the actions that form one mighty column wherefrom true worth is estimated. One day's work left undone causes a break in the great chain that years of toil may not be able to repair. Yesterday was ours, but it is gone. Today is all we possess, for tomorrow we may never see. Therefore, in the golden hour of the present, the seeds are planted whereby the harvest for good or evil is to be reaped. To endure with cheerfulness, hoping for little, asking for much, is perhaps the true plan. Decide at once upon a noble purpose, then take it up bravely, bear it off joyfully, lay it down triumphantly. Be industrious, be frugal, be honest, deal with kindness with all who come in your way, and if you do not prosper as rapidly as you would wish, depend upon it, you will be happy. The web of life is drawn into the loom for us, but we weave it ourselves. We throw our own shuttle and work our own treadle. The warp is given us, but the woof we furnish. Find our own materials and color, and figure it to suit ourselves. Every man is the architect of his own house, his own temple of fame. If he builds one great, glorious, and honorable, the merit and the bliss are his. If he rears a polluted, unsightly, vice-haunted den, to himself the shame and misery belongs. Life is often but a bitter struggle from first to last with many who wear smiling faces and are ever ready with a cheerful word, when there is scarcely a shred left of the hopes and opportunities which for years promised happiness and content. But it is human still to strive and yearn and grope for some unknown good that shall send all unrest and troubles to the winds, and settle down over one's life with a halo of peace and satisfaction. The rainbow of hope is always visible in the future. Life is like a winding lane, on either side bright flowers and tempting fruits, which we scarcely pause to admire or taste, so eager are we to pass to an opening in the distance, which we imagine will be more beautiful. But, alas, we find we have only hastened by these tempting scenes to arrive at a desert waste. We creep into childhood, bound into youth, sober into manhood, and totter into old age. But through it all let us so live that when in the evening of life the golden clouds rest sweetly and invitingly upon the golden mountains, and the light of heaven streams down through the gathering mists of death, we may have a peaceful and joyous entrance into that world of blessedness, where the great riddle of life, whose meaning we can only guess at here below, will be unfolded to us in the quick consciousness of a soul redeemed and purified. End of section 1. Section 2 of the Golden Gems of Life. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Golden Gems of Life by Emory Adams Allen and S.C. Ferguson. Section 2. Home. Home is the resort of love, of joy, of peace and plenty, where supporting and supported polished friends and dear relations mingle into bliss. Home. That word touches every fibre of the soul, and strikes every chord of the human heart with its angelic fingers. Nothing but death can break its spell. What tender associations are linked with home, what pleasing images and deep emotions it awakens. It calls up the fondest memories of life, and opens in our nature the purest, deepest, richest gush of consecrated thought and feeling. To the little child, home is his world. He knows no other. The father's love, the mother's smile, the sister's embrace, the brother's welcome, throw about his home a heavenly halo, and make it as attractive to him as the home of angels. Home is the spot where the child pours out all his complaint, and it is the grave of all his sorrows. Childhood has its sorrows and its grievances, but home is the place where these are soothed and banished by the sweet lullaby of a fond mother's voice. Ask the man of mature years, whose brow is furrowed by care, whose mind is engrossed in business, ask him, what is home? He will tell you it is a place of rest, a haven of content, where loved ones relieve him of the burden of his everyday life, too heavy to be continuously borne, from whence, refreshed and invigorated, he goes forth to do battle again. Ask the lone wanderer as he plods his weary way, bent with the weight of years and white with the frosts of age. Ask him what is home. He will tell you it is a green spot in memory, an oasis in the desert, a centre about which the fondest recollection of his grief-oppressed heart clings with all the tenacity of youth's first love. It was once a glorious, a happy reality, but now it rests only as an image of the mind. Wherever the heart wanders, it carries the thought of home with it. Wherever by the rivers of Babylon the heart feels its loss and loneliness, it hangs its harp upon the willows and weeps. It prefers home to its chief joy. It will never forget it, for there swelled its first throb, there were developed its first affections, there a mother's eye looked into it, there a father's prayer blessed it, and there the love of parents and brothers and sisters gave it precious entertainment. There bubbled up from unseen fountains life's first effervescing hopes. There life took form and consistence. From that centre went out all its young ambition. Towards that focus return its concentrating memories. There it took form and fitted itself to loving natures, and it will carry that impress wherever it may go, unless it becomes polluted by sin, or makes to itself another home sanctified by a new and more precious affection. There is one vision that never fades from the soul, and that is the vision of mother and of home. No man in all his weary wanderings ever goes out beyond the overshadowing arch of home. Let him stand on the surf-beaten coast of the Atlantic, or roam over western wilds, and every dash of the wave or murmur of the breeze will whisper, "Home, sweet home." Let him down amid the glaciers of the north, and even there thoughts of home, too warm to be chilled by the eternal frosts, will float in upon him. Let him rove through the green waving groves and over the sunny slopes of the south, and in the smile of the soft skies and in the kiss of the balmy breeze, home will live again. Let prosperity reward his every exertion, and wealth and affluence bring round him all the luxury of the earth, and yet in his marble palace will rise unforbidden the vision of his childhood's home. Let misfortune overtake him, let poverty be his portion, and hunger press him, still in troubled dreams will his thoughts revert to his olden home. If you wanted to gather up all tender memories, all lights and shadows of the heart, all banquetings and reunions, all filial, fraternal, paternal, conjugal affections, and had only just 4 letters to spell out all height and depth and length and breadth and magnitude and eternity of meaning, you would write it all out with the 4 letters that spell home. What beautiful and tender associations cluster thick around that word! Compared with it, wealth, mansion, palace are cold, heartless terms. But home, that word quickens every pulse, warms the heart, stirs the soul to its depths, makes age feel young again, rouses apathy into energy, sustains the sailor in his midnight watch, inspires the soldier with courage on the field of battle, and imparts patient endurance to the worn-out sons of toil. The thought of it has proved a sevenfold shield to virtue. The very name of it has a spell to call back the wanderer from the path of vice. And far away where myrtles bloom and palm trees wave, and the ocean sleeps upon coral strands, to the exile's fond fancy it clothes the naked rock or stormy shore, or barren moor, or wild height and mountain, with charms he weeps to think of, and longs once more to see. Every home should be as a city set on a hill that cannot be hid. Into it should flock friends and friendship, bringing the light of the world, the stimulus and the modifying power of contact with various natures, the fresh flowers of feeling gathered from wide fields. Out of it should flow benign charities, pleasant amenities, and all those influences which are the natural offspring of a high and harmonious home life. The home is the fountain of civilization. Our laws are made in the home. The things said there give bias to character far more than do sermons and lectures, newspapers and books. No other audience are so susceptible and receptive as those gathered around the table and fireside. No other teachers have the acknowledged and divine right to instruct that is granted without challenge to parents. The foundation of our national life is under their hand. They can make it send forth waters, bitter or sweet, for the death or the healing of the people. The influences of home perpetuate themselves. The gentle graces of the mother live in the daughter long after her head is pillowed in the dust of death. And the fatherly kindness finds its echoes in the nobility and character of sons who come to wear his mantle and fill his place. While on the other hand, from an unhappy, misgoverned, and ill-ordered home go forth persons who shall make other homes miserable, and perpetuate the sorrows and sadness, the contentions and strifes which have made their own early lives miserable. In every proper sense in which home can be considered, it is a powerful stimulant to noble actions and a high and pure morality. So valuable is this love of home that every man should cherish it as the apple of his eye, as he values his own moral worth, as he prizes his country, the peace and happiness of the world, yea, more, as he values the immortal interests of man. He should cherish and cultivate a strong and abiding love of home. Home has voices of experience and hearts of genuine holy love to instruct you in the way of life, and to save you from a sense of loneliness as you gradually discover the selfishness of mankind. Home has its trials, in which are imaged forth the stern struggles of your after years, that your character may gain strength and manifestation, for which purpose they are necessary. They open the portals of his heart, that the jewels otherwise concealed in its hidden depths may shine forth and shed their lustre on the world. Home has its duties, to teach you how to act on your own responsibilities. Home gradually and greatly increases its burdens, so that you may acquire strength to endure without being overtasked. Home is a little world in which the duties of the great world are daily rehearsed. He who has no home has not the sweetest pleasures of life. He feels not the thousand endearments that cluster around that hallowed spot, to fill the void of his aching heart, and while away his leisure moments in the sweetest of life's enjoyments. Is misfortune your lot, you will find a friendly welcome from hearts beating true to your own. The chosen partner of your toil has a smile of approbation when others have deserted you, a hand of hope when all others refuse, and a heart to feel your sorrows as her own. No matter how humble that home may be, how destitute its stores, or how poorly its inmates may be clad, if true hearts dwell there, it is still a home. Of all places on earth, home is the most delicate and sensitive. Its springs of action are subtle and secret. Its chords move with a breath. Its fires are kindled with a spark. Its flowers are bruised with the least rudeness. The influences of our homes strike so directly on our hearts that they make sharp impressions. In our intercourse with the world we are barricaded, and the arrows let fly at our hearts are warded off. But not so with us at home. Here our hearts wear no covering, no armor. Every arrow strikes them. Every cold wind blows full upon them. Every storm beats against them. What in the world we would pass by in sport, in our homes would wound us to the quick. Very little can we bear at home, for it is a sensitive place. If we would have a true home, we must guard well our thoughts and actions. A single bitter word may disquiet the home for a whole day. But like unexpected flowers which spring up along our path full of freshness, fragrance, and beauty, so do kind words and gentle acts and sweet disposition make glad the home where peace and blessing dwell. No matter how humble the abode, if it be thus garnished with grace and sweetened by kindness and smiles, the heart will turn lovingly towards it from all the tumults of the world, and home, be it ever so humble, will be the dearest spot under the sun. There is no happiness in life, there is no misery, like that growing out of the disposition which consecrates or desecrates a home. He is happiest, be he king or peasant, who finds peace at home. Home should be made so truly home that the weary, tempted heart could turn towards it anywhere on the dusty highways of life and receive light and strength. It should be the sacred refuge of our lives, whether rich or poor. The affections and loves of home are graceful things, especially among the poor. The ties that bind the wealthy and proud to home may be forged on earth, but those which link the poor man to his humble hearth are those of the true metal and bear the stamp of heaven. These affections and loves constitute the poetry of human life, and so far as our present existence is concerned, with all the domestic relations, are worth more than all other social ties. They give the first throb to the heart, and unseal the deep fountains of its love. Homes are not made up of material things. It is not a fine house, rich furniture, a luxurious table, a flowery garden, and a superb carriage that make a home. Vastly superior to this is a true home. Our ideal home should be heart homes, in which virtue lives and love flowers bloom, and peace offerings are daily brought to its altars. It is made radiant within with every social virtue, and beautiful without by those simple adornments with which nature is everywhere so prolific. The children born in such homes will leave them with regret, and come back to them in after life as pilgrims to a holy shrine. The towns on whose hills and in whose vales such homes are found will live forever in the hearts of its grateful children. How easy it is to invest homes with true elegance, which resides not with the upholsterer or draper. It exists in the spirit, presiding over the apartments of the dwelling. Contentment must be always most graceful. It sheds serenity over the scenes of its abode. It transforms a waste into a garden. The house lighted by those imitations of a nobler and brighter life may be wanting much which the discontented may desire, but to its inhabitants it will be a palace far outvying the Oriental in beauty. There is music in the word home. To the old it brings a bewitching strain from the harp of a memory. To the middle-aged it brings up happy thoughts, while to the young it is a reminder of all that is near and dear to them. Our hearts turn with unchangeable love and longing to the dear old home which sheltered us in childhood. Kind friends may beckon us to newer scenes, and loving hearts may bind us fast to other pleasant homes, but we love to return to the home of our childhood. It may be old and rickety to the eyes of strangers. The windows may have been broken and patched long ago, and the floor worn through, but it is still the old home from out of which we looked at life with hearts full of hope, building castles which faded long ago. Here we watched life come and go. Here we folded still, cold hands over hearts as still, that once beat full of love for us. Even as the sunbeam is composed of millions of minute rays, the home life must be constituted of little tendernesses, kind looks, sweet laughter, gentle words, loving counsels. It must not be like the torch blaze of natural excitement which is easily quenched, but like the serene, chastened light which burns as safely in the dry east wind as in the stillest atmosphere. Let each bear the other's burden the while. Let each cultivate the mutual confidence which is a gift capable of increase and improvement, and soon it will be found that kindness will spring up on every side, displacing unsuitability, want of mutual knowledge, even as we have seen sweet violets and primroses dispelling the gloom of the grey sea rocks. The sweetest type of heaven is home. Nay, heaven itself is the home for whose acquisition we are to strive most strongly. Home in one form or another is the great object of life. It stands at the end of every day's labour and beckons us to its bosom, and life would be cheerless and meaningless did we not discern across the river that divides it from the life beyond glimpses of the pleasant mansions prepared for us. Yes, heaven is the home towards which those who have lived aright direct their steps when wearied by the toils of life. There the members of the homes on earth, separated here, will meet again to part no more. End of section 2.
Section 3 of the Golden Gems of Life. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Bob Klingerman. The Golden Gems of Life by Emory Adams Allen and S.C. Ferguson. Section 3. The Home Circle. The home circle may be, ought to be, the most delightful place on earth, the center of the purest affections and most desirable associations, as well as of the most attractive and exalted beauties to be found this side of paradise. Nothing can excel in beauty and sublimity the quietude, peace, harmony, affection, and happiness of a well-ordered family, where virtue is nurtured and every good principle fostered and sustained. The home circle is a nursery of affection. It is the Eden of young attachments, and here should be planted and tended all the germs of love, every seed that shall ever sprout in the heart, and how carefully should they be tended, how guarded against the frosts of jealousy, anger, envy, pride, vanity, and ambition, how rooted in the best soil of the heart, and nourished and cultivated by the soul's best husbandry. Here is the heart's garden. Its sunshine and flowers are here. All its beautiful, all its lovely things are here. And here should be expended care, toil, effort, patience, and whatever may be necessary to make them still more lovely. It is around the memories of the home circle that cluster the happiest and sometimes the saddest of the recollections of youth. There is a thought of brother and sister, perhaps now gone forever, of childish sorrow and grief, of the mother's prayer and the father's blessing. Do you wonder what these memories, both bitter and sweet, linger in the chambers of the mind long after those of the busy years of maturity have faded away before the approach of age? With what assiduity ought all who have arrived at the years of maturity strive to make their homes pleasant, and especially is this true of parents, so that its members, when they go from thence, will carry with them thoughts that through all the weary years that are before them will afford a pleasant retreat for them when well nigh wearied with the care which comes with increasing years. We cannot honor with too deep a reverence the home affections. We cannot cultivate them with too great a care. We cannot cherish them with too much solicitude. There is the center of our present happiness, the springs of our deepest and strongest tides of joy. When the home affections are duly cultivated, all others follow or grow out of them as a natural consequence. If any would have fervent and noble affections, such as give power and glory to the human heart, such as sanctify the soul and make it supremely beautiful, such as an angel might covet without shame, let him cultivate all the feelings that originate as from a radiant point in the home circle. The true flower of home love requires for its development the aid of every member of the home circle. The tears of sympathy, as well as the sunshine of domestic affection, bring it to its glorious maturity. Ofttimes there are families, the members of which are, without doubt, dear to each other. If sickness or sudden trouble fall on one, all are afflicted, and make haste to help and sympathize and comfort. But in their daily life and ordinary intercourse, there is not only no expression of affection, none of the pleasant and fond behavior that has, perhaps, little dignity, but which more than makes up for that in its sweetness. But there is an absolute hardness of language and actions which is shocking to every sensitive and tender feeling. Between father and mother, brother and sister, ofttimes pass rough and hasty words, and sometimes angry words, even more frequently than words of endearment. To judge from their actions, they do not appear to love each other, nor does it seem to have occurred to them that it is their duty, as it should be their best pleasure, to do and say all that they possibly can for each other's good and happiness. It is in the home circle where we form many, if not the most, of our habits, both of action and speech. These habits we carry into the world. They cling to us. The vulgarities which we use at home we shall use abroad, the coarse sayings, the low jest, the vulgar speeches, the grammatical blunders. All the lingual imperfections which go to form a part of our home conversation will enter into our conversation at all times and in all places. The home circle should be held too sacred to be polluted with the vulgarities of languages which could have originated nowhere but in low and groveling minds. It should be dedicated to love and truth, to all that is tender in feeling and noble and pure in thought, to holiest communion of soul with soul. In order that such a communion may be enjoyed, it is requisite that language should there perform its most sacred office, even the office of transmitting unimpaired the most tender and sacred affections that glow in the human heart. If the dialects of angels could be used on earth, its fittest place would be with the home circle. The language of home should be such as would not stain the purest lips, nor fall harshly on the most refined ear. It should abound in words of wisdom, which are at once the glory of youth and the honor of age. The home circle, what tender associations does it recall? How deeply interwoven are its golden filaments with all the fiber of our affectionate natures, forming the glittering of the heart's golden life. Here are father, mother, child, brother, sister, companions, all the heart loves, all that makes earth lovely, all that enriches the mind with faith and the soul with hope. What language is most fitting for home use, to bear the messages of home feeling, to be freighted with the diamond treasure of home hearts? Should it be any other than the most refined and pure, any other than that breathing the sacred charity of affection? Home is the great seating place of every affection that ever grows in the heart. Hence all should tend well to it, watch, prune, and cultivate with all prudence and wisdom, with all fervency of spirit. Let the music of the heart swell its notes here in one perpetual anthem of goodwill. Let praise and prayer and fervent good wishes and words and works hallow its sacred shrine. Let offices of love go round like smiles at a feast of joy. Let the whole soul devote its energies to making happy its home, and its rewards will be great. If there be any tie formed in life which ought to be securely guarded from anything which can put it in peril, it is that which unites the members of a family. If there be a spot upon earth from which discord and strife should be banished, it is the fireside. There center the fondest hopes and the most tender affections. The great lever by which the heart is moved is love. It is the basis of all true excellence, of all excellent thought. How pleasing the spectacle of that home circle which is governed by the spirit of love! Each one strives to avoid giving offense, and is studiously considerate of the other's happiness. Sweet, loving dispositions are cultivated by all, and each tries to surpass the other in his efforts for the common harmony. Each heart glows with love, and the benediction of heavenly peace seems to abide upon that dwelling with such power that no storm of passion is able to arise. There is no pleasanter sight than that of a family of young folks who are quick to perform little acts of attention towards their elders. The placing of the big armchair for the mother, or kindly errands done for the father, and scores of little deeds show the tender sympathy of gentle, loving hearts. Parents should show their appreciation to these kindly acts. If they do not indicate they are appreciated, the habit is soon dropped. Little children are imitative creatures, and quickly catch the spirit surrounding them. So, if the father shows kindly attention to the mother, bright eyes will see the act, and quick minds will make a note of it. By example, much more than by precept, can children be taught to speak kindly to each other, to acknowledge favors, to be gentle and unselfish, to be thoughtful and considerate of the comfort of the family. The boys, with inward pride of the father's courteous demeanor, will be chivalrous and helpful to their sisters, and the girls, imitating the mother, will be patient and gentle, even when brothers are noisy and heedless. In the homes where true courtesy prevails, it seems to meet you on the threshold. You feel the kindly welcome on entering. No angry voices are heard upstairs, no sullen children are sent from the room, no peremptory orders are given to cover the delinquencies of housekeeping or servants. A delightful atmosphere pervades the house, unmistakable yet indescribable. Such a house, filled by the spirit of love, is a home indeed, to all who enter within its consecrated walls. Members of the home circle lose nothing by mutual politeness. On the contrary, by maintaining not only its forms, but by inward cultivation of its spirit, they become contributors to that domestic feeling which is in itself a foretaste of heaven. The good night and the good morning salutation, though they may seem but trifles, have a sweet and softening influence on all of its members. The little kiss and artless good night of the smaller ones as they retire to rest have in them a heavenly melody. Children are the pride and ornament of the family circle. They create sport and amusement, and dissipate all sense of loneliness from the household. When intelligent and well-trained, they afford a spectacle which even indifferent persons contemplate with satisfaction and delight. Still, these pleasurable emotions are not unalloyed with solicitude. It is an agreeable but changeable picture of human happiness. Time, in advancing, carries them forward, and ere long they will feel like exclaiming, with the older and more sad and serious ones around them, that their youth exists only in remembrance. There is probably not an unpolluted man or woman living who does not feel that the sweetest consolations and best rewards of life are found in the loves and delights of home. There are very few who do not feel themselves indebted to the influence that clustered around their cradles for whatever good there may be in their character and condition. The influence proceeding from the home circle is either a blessing or a curse, either for good or for evil. It cannot be neutral. In either case it is mighty, commencing with our birth, going with us through life, clinging to us in death, and reaching into the eternal world. It is that unitive power which arises out of the manifold relations and associations of domestic life. The specific influence of husband and wife, of parent and child, of brother and sister, of teacher and pupil, united and harmoniously blended, constitute the home influence. From this we may infer the character of a home influence. It is great, silent, irresistible, and permanent. Like the calm, deep stream, it moves on in silent but overwhelming power. It strikes root deep into the human heart and spreads its branches wide over our whole being. Like the lily that braves the tempest, and the alpine flower that leans its cheek on the bosom of eternal snow, it is exerted amid the wildest scenes of life, and breathes a softening spell in our bosom, even when a heartless world is freezing up the fountains of our sympathy and love. It is governing, restraining, attracting, and traditional. It holds the empire of the heart and rules the life. It restrains the wayward passions of the child and checks the man in his mad career of ruin. But all pictures of earthly happiness are transient in duration. Where can you find an unbroken home circle? The time must soon come, if it has not already, when you must part from those who have surrounded the same parental board, who mingled with you in the gay-hearted joys of childhood and the opening promise of youth. New cares will attend you in new situations, and the relations you form and the business you pursue may call you far from the play-place of your youth. In the unseen future, your brothers and sisters may be sundered from you, your lives may be spent apart, and in death you may be divided, and of you it may be said, "They grew in beauty side by side, they filled one home with glee. Their graves are severed far and wide, by mount and stream and sea." End of section 3.
Section 4 of the Golden Gems of Life. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Golden Gems of Life by Emory Adams Allen and S.C. Ferguson. Section 4. Father and Mother. How can children repay parents for their watchings, anxieties, labours, toils, trials, patience, and love? Think of the utter helplessness of the long years of infancy, of the entire dependence of succeeding childhood, of the necessities and wants of youth, of the burning solicitude of parents and their deep and inexhaustible love. Think of the long years of unwearied toil, of their deep and soul-felt devotion to the interests of their offspring, of the majesty and matchless power of their unselfish affections. And then say whether it is possible for youth to repay too much love and gratitude for all this bestowal of parental anxiety. Oh, what thankfulness should fill every child's heart! What a glorious return of love! Every day should they give them some token of love. Every hour should their own hearts glow with gratitude and holy respect for those who have given them being and loved them so fervently and long. Nothing will so warm and quicken all the affections of the parent's heart as such respect. Who feels like trusting an ungrateful child? Who can believe that his affection for any object can be firm and pure? The object who has loved long and well his parents, has thoroughly electrified his affections, has surcharged them with the sweet spirit of an affectionate tenderness, which will pervade his entire heart, and will make him better and purer for ever. The affections of such a child are to be trusted. As well may one doubt an angel as such a one. There is always a liability where sons and daughters have gone from the home of their childhood, and have formed homes of their own, gradually to lose the old attachments and cease to pay those attentions to parents which were so easy and natural in the olden time. New associations, new thoughts, new cares all come in, filling the mind and heart, and if special pains be not taken, they thrust out the old love. This ought never to be. Children should remember that the change is in them, and not with those they left behind. They have everything that is new, much that is attractive in the present and bright in the future, but the parents' hearts cling to the past, and have most in memory. When children go away, they know not, and never will know until they experience it themselves, what it cost to give them up, nor what a vacancy they left behind. The parents have not, if the children have, any new loves to take the place of the old. Do not, then, heartlessly deprive them of what you still can give of attention and love. If you live in the same place, let your step be, if possible, daily, a familiar one in the old home. Even when many miles away, make it your business to go to your parents. In this matter do not regard time or expense. They are well spent, and some day when the word reaches you, flashed over the wires, that your father or mother is gone, you will not regret then the many hours of travel spent in going to them while they were yet alive. Keep up your intercourse with your parents. Do not deem it sufficient to write only when something important is to be told. Do not believe that to them no news is good news. If it be but a few lines, write them. Write, if it be only to say, "I am well." If it be only to send the salutation which says they are dear, or the farewell which tells them that you are affectionate still. These little messages will be like caskets of jewels, and the tear that falls fondly over them would be treasures for you. Let every child, having any pretence to heart, or manliness, or piety, and who is so fortunate as to have a father or mother living, consider it a sacred duty to consult, at any reasonable personal sacrifice, the known wishes of such a parent until that parent is no more, and, our word for it, the recollections of the same through the after pilgrimage of life will sweeten every sorrow, will brighten every gladness, will sparkle every teardrop with a joy ineffable. There is no period of life when our parents do not claim our attention, love, and warmest affections. From youth to manhood, from middle age to riper years, if our honoured parents survive, it should be our constant study how we can best promote their welfare and happiness, and smooth the pillow of their declining years. Nothing better recommends an individual than his attentions to his parents. There are some children whose highest ambition seems to be the promotion of their parents' interest. They watch over them with unwearied care, supply all their wants, and by their devotion and kindness remove all care and sorrow from their hearts. On the contrary, there are others who seem never to bestow a thought upon their parents, and to care but little whether they are comfortably situated or not. By their conduct they increase their cares, embitter their lives, and bring their grey hairs with sorrow to the grave. Selfishness has steeled their hearts to the whispers of affection, and avarice denies to their parents those favours which would materially assist them in the downhill of life. Others, too, by a course of profligacy and vice, have drained to the very dregs their parents' cup of happiness, and made them anxious for death to release them from their sufferings. How bitter must be the doom of those children who have thus embittered the lives of their best earthly friends! There can be no happier reflection than that derived from the thought of having contributed to the comfort and happiness of our parents. When called away from our presence, which sooner or later must happen, the thought will be sweet that our efforts and our care smoothed their declining years, and that they departed in comfort and peace. If we were otherwise, and we denied them what their circumstances and necessities required, and our hearts did not become like the nether millstone, our remorse must prove a thorn in our flesh, piercing us sharply, and filling our days with regret. There is an enduring tenderness in the love of a mother to her son that transcends all other affections of the heart. It is neither to be chilled by selfishness, weakened by worthlessness, nor stifled by ingratitude. She will sacrifice every comfort to his convenience. She will surrender every pleasure to his enjoyment. She will glory in his fame, and exult in his prosperity. If misfortune overtake him, he will be the dearer to her from misfortune, and if disgrace settles upon his name, she will still love and cherish him in spite of his disgrace. If all the worlds besides cast him off, she will be all the world to him. A father may turn his back on his child, brothers and sisters may become inveterate enemies, husbands may desert their wives, wives their husbands, but a mother's love endures through all. In good repute, in bad repute, in the face of the world's condemnation, a mother still lives on, and still hopes that her child may turn from his evil ways and repent. She still remembers his infant smile, that ever filled her bosom with rapture, the merry laugh, the joyful shout of his childhood, the opening promise of his youth, and thinking of these, she never can be brought to think him all unworthy. Young man, speak kindly to your mother, and ever courteously and tenderly of her. But a little while, and you shall see her no more for ever. Her eye is dim, her form bent, and her shadow falls graveward. Others may love you when she has passed away, a kind sister, perhaps, or she whom of all the world you chose for a partner. She may love you warmly, passionately. Children may love you fondly, but never again, never, while time is yours, shall the love of a woman be to you as that of your old, trembling mother has been. Alas, how little do we appreciate a mother's tenderness while living, how heedless we are in youth of all her anxious tenderness. But when she is dead and gone, when the cares and coldness of the world come withering to our hearts, when we experience how hard it is to find true sympathy, how few love us for ourselves, how few will befriend us in misfortune, then it is that we think of the mother we have lost. The loss of a parent is always felt. Even though age and infirmities may have incapacitated them from taking an active part in the cares of the family, still they are rallying points around which affection and obedience, and 1,000 tender endeavours to please, concentrate. They are like the lonely star before us. Neither its heat nor light are anything to us in themselves. Yet the shepherd would feel his heart sad if he missed it when he lifts his eye to the brow of the mountains over which it rises when the sun descends. Over the grave of a friend, of a brother or sister, we would plant the primrose, emblematical of youth, but over that of a mother we would let the green grass shoot up unmolested, for there is something in the simple covering which nature spreads upon the grave which well becomes the abiding place of decaying age. Oh, a mother's grave! It is indeed a sacred spot. It may be retired from the noise of business and unnoticed by the stranger, but to our heart how dear! The love we should bear to a parent is not to be measured by years, nor annihilated by distance, nor forgotten when they sleep in dust. Marks of age may appear in our homes and on our persons, but the memory of a beloved parent is more enduring than that of time itself. Who has stood by the grave of a mother and not remembered her pleasant smiles, kind words, earnest prayer, and assurance expressed in a dying hour? Many years may have passed. Memory may be treacherous in other things, but will reproduce with freshness the impressions once made by a mother's influence. Why may we not linger where rests all that was earthly of a beloved parent? It may have a restraining influence upon the wayward, prove a valuable incentive to increase faithfulness, encourage hope in the hour of depression, and give fresh inspiration to Christian life. The mother's love is indeed the golden cord which binds youth to age, and he is still but a child, however time may have furrowed his cheek or silvered his brow, who can yet recall with a softened heart the fond devotion or the gentle chidings of the best friend that God ever gave us. Round the idea of mother the mind of a man clings with fond affection. It is the first deep thought stamped upon our infant heart, and yet soft and capable of receiving the most profound impressions, and the after feelings of the world are more or less light in comparison. Even in old age we look back to that feeling as the sweetest we have known through life. Our passions and our wilfulness may lead us far from the object of our filial love. We may come even to pain their heart, to oppose their wishes, to violate their commands. We may become wild, headstrong, or angry at their counsels or oppositions. But when death has stilled their monitory voices, and nothing but silent memory remains to recapitulate their virtues and deeds, affection, like a flower broken to the ground by a past storm, lifts up her head and smiles away our tears. When the early period of our loss forces memory to be silent, fancy takes her place, and twines the image of our dead parents with a garland of graces, beauties, and virtues, which we doubt not they possessed. End of section 4.
Section 5 of The Golden Gems of Life. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sorosha Thawansin from Bangkok, Thailand. The Golden Gems of Life by Emory, Adam, Allen, and S.C. Ferguson. Section 5. Infancy. Infancy, the morning of life. How beautiful it is, how filled with great responsibilities. An immortal soul commences its existence, a life beginning in time, but capable of growing brighter when time is ended and eternity begun, commences to note the passing hours. We welcome the infant with joy and congratulate the parents, and we do well, but to an angel who can clearly understand the infinite value of the life just commenced, the height of happiness to which it may ascend, the depths of misery to which it may be brought. It must seem a moment so deeply freighted with solemn meaning as to dispel all expressions of joy, save only of a subdued and chastened kind. Infancy has its hours of anxiety and trials for the parents, but it has also its hours of compensating joys, when sickness is in the midst, and it seems as if the cradle song would be exchanged for a dirge. What utter wretchedness of heart is the parent's portion! A mother watching the palpitating frame of her child as life ebbs slowly away evokes the sympathy of the sternest. A child dying dies but once, but the mother dies 100 times. A mother mourning by the grave of her firstborn, and strewing flowers over a coffin form instead of kisses on a warm brow, in one of the deepest spectacles of human woe. These are the dark shades, the night scenes of the parent's experience, but it has its richer, deeper, and more inspiring history, its seasons of comfort and delight, when the little child, insensibly perhaps, draws the parents into a higher and a better life. What a sense of delicious responsibilities fill the parents' hearts, as they realize that in their hands and under their influence is to be molded a character, that they are the ones to carefully watch the unfolding of a human life, the development of a human soul. How earnestly should they seek to set a watch over their lips, to guard well their thoughts and actions, to surround the child with such an air of refined, intelligent, loving kindness that its young life shall as naturally grow into a youth of beauty and a noble manhood or true womanhood, as that the bud on the rose bush expands to the gorgeous flower that excites universal admiration. Welcome to the parents the puny struggle, strong in his weakness, his little arm more irresistible than the soldier's, his lips touched with persuasion, which Chatham and Pericles in manhood had not, his unaffected lamentation when he lifts up his voice on high, or more beautiful, the sobbing child, the face all liquid grief, and he tries to swallow his vexation, soften all hearts to pity and to mirthful and clamorous compassion. The parent's duty commences at the birth of the child. There is importance even in the handling of infancy. If it is unchristian, it will beget unchristian states and feeling. If it is gentle, even patient and loving, it prepares a mood and temper like its own. Then how careful to banish the cross word, the impatient gesture! Let kind and loving tones only fall on its ears, and only gentle hands assist it in its little want. There is scarcely room to doubt that almost cryptic, resentful, passionate characters, almost even lovely, firm, and truly ones, are prepared in a great degree by the handling of the nursery. The biography of many persons, painfully written would ascribe to the training of early years the molding not only of youthful character, but the more measured forms of mental and moral development of after years. The influence thus exerted in the early days of infancy is often the almost hopeless casting of bread upon the waters, often not found in any its favorable developments until after many days. The cares of world and the evil example of other often choke the word of a good mother, and destroy its vitality, but not unfrequently it will be found, like seed long buried in the earth, to spring up to remembrance in active life, and the counsels imparted to the infant of days be found to influence and control the whole destiny of the man of measured years and grey hair. As it is a law of our being that all, even the most feeble and insignificant, assert a reciprocal influence on all around them, then an infant exerts a great modifying influence on the elder men and women around it. It recalls them from the contemplation of the stern realities of life to its innocent faces, from disdainful, self-reliant pride to trustful confidence, hearts that but for the smile of innocence on the prattling lips of infancy had grown callous beat once more in sympathy with the distressed around them. The feeble clasp of well-nigh helpless hands is sometimes powerful enough to turn strong men from the road to ruin. An infant in his cradle is king, and wields his power over all who come near him. Infants are the poetry of the world, the fresh flowers of our hearts and homes, little conjurers with the magic of their natural ways, working by their spells what delights and enriches all ranks and equalizes the different classes of society. Every infant comes into the world like a delegated prophet, the harbinger and herald of good tidings, whose office it is to make young again hearts well nigh wearied with the care of years. A child warms and softens the heart by its gentle presence. It enriches the soul by a new feeling, and it awakens within it what is favorable to virtue. An infant is a beam of light, a fountain of love, a teacher whose lessons few can resist. There are cause from much that engenders and encourages selfishness, that frees the affections, roughens the manners, and indurates the heart, that brighten the home, deepen love, invigorate exertion, infuse courage, and vivify and sustain the charities of life. An infant finds a place in the hearts of all people. The selfish and proud open their hearts to its silent influence. The aged, who are standing near the end of the journey of life, have the scenes of their younger days called up afresh by the child's artless ways, and in its company grow young again. The disconsolate seem to catch a fresh glimpse of hope when they see the confiding ways of the little child, and take heart again. It would seem fitting that nature should exempt a little child from sickness and death, but alas, impartial fate, which with equal pace knocks at the palace as the cottage gate, is no respecter of age. What a great hush falls on the ear like a pall, and an untold sadness settles over the heart when the little child is sick. Is it not strange that such a wee bit of a thing should have the power to change everything, making the sunshine that but yesterday played in and out of the windows so merrily and bright seem such a mockery today, changing the joyous tones of the other child into funeral notes? Why is it that the soft winds which but lately seemed burdened with joy, and came softly whispering of pleasant dales, of flowing streams, of flowery bank, to-day seemed strangely signing to have exchanged its joy for sorrow. But such is the spell that baby has woven, knitting itself into the very meshes of our hearts in such a quiet, subduing manner that we scarcely know how dear it is until the little form lies still and prostrate. Great as is the influence of the little child while living, it has also a sweet and sacred influence when its brief life is over, and the solemn "thus unto dust, and ashes unto ashes" has been said over the little mound in the churchyard. Sweet places for pure thought and holy meditation are these little graves. They are depositories of the mother's sweetest joy, unfolded buds of innocence, humanity nipped by the frost of time ere yet a canker worm of corruption and nestled among its embryo petals. Callous, indeed, must be the heart of him who can stand by a little graveside and not have the holiest emotions of the soul awakened to thoughts of purity and joy, which belong alone to God and heaven. The mute preacher at his feet tells of a life begun and ended without a stain. And surely, if this be vouchsafed a mortality, how much more pure and holier must be the spirit land, enlightened by the sun of infinite goodness, from whence emanated the soul of the brief sojourner among us. How swells the soul with joy when standing by the earth beds of lost little ones, sorrowful because a sweet treasure has been taken away, joyful because that sweet jewel glitters in the diadem of the redeemed. Such, then, is infancy. 'Tis the brief morning hour which precedes the busy day. It may be grand and beautiful, while its after-life may but be dark and lowering, going out at last with wailing winds and weeping storms, or it may be bleak and dreary, only at last to break forth into the full glory of the beauteous summer day. But whatever its present state, care and trouble and sorrow are sure to await it. So train it, then, that it shall expect them, and look to the only true source for aid and assistance for the trials that lie in store for it. End of section 5. Recording by Sarosha Thawansinsurakul from Bangkok, Thailand. Section 6 of the Golden Gems of Life. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sarosha Thawansinsurakul from Bangkok, Thailand. The Golden Gems of Life by Emory, Adam Allen, and S.C. Ferguson. Section 6. Childhood. Childhood, after reason has begun her sway, seemed to us the happiest season of life. It is also a critical period. At this time, they receive those impressions and contract those habits which impel them towards the good and true, or towards the evil and false. The child soul is without character. It is a rudimental existence, pure as the driven snow, beautiful as cherub angel, spotless, guileless, and innocent. It is the child of a man yet to be filled up with the elements of a character. These elements are first outlined by the parents. With what delicacy should they use to pencil or personal influence? The soul is soft, and the lines they make are deep and not easily erased. It is a manly form, responsible work. It is an immortal soul they work upon, destined to survive the wreck of matter and crush all worlds, and to show in its character forever some disinterest, at least, for the work. Never believe anything that concerns children to be of no importance. A hasty word is of consequence. The little things that they see and hear about them mold them for eternity. Observe how very quick the child eye is to perceive the meaning of looks, voices, and motions. It peruses all faces, colors, and sounds. Every sentiment that looks into its eye is reflected therefrom, and placed in miniature on its countenance. The tear that steals down the cheek of a mother's suppressed grief gathers the little infantile face into a sob. With a wondering silence it studies the mother in her prayers, and looks up with her in that exploring watch which signifies unspoken prayer. If the child be tended with impatience, or coolly, and with a lack of motherly gentleness, it straightway shows by its action that it, too, feels the sting of just that which is felt towards it, and that it is angered by anger, fretted by fretfulness, irritated by irritation, having impressed upon it just that kind of impatience or ill nature which is felt towards it, and growing faithfully into the bad mood as by a fixed law. However apparently trivial the influences which contribute to form the character of the child, they endure through life. Those impulses to conduct which last no longer and are rooted the deepest always have their origin near our birth. It is there that the germs of virtue or vice, or feeling or sentiment, are first implanted, which determine the character for life. It is in childhood that the mind is more open to impression, and ready to be kindled by the first spark that fly into it. The first thing continues always with the child. The first joy, the first failure, the first achievement, the first misadventure paint the foreground of life. Influence is as quiet and imperceptible on the child's mind as the falling of snowflakes on the meadows. One cannot tell the hour when the human mind is not in the condition of receiving impression from exterior moral forces. In innumerable instances, the most secret and unnoticed influences have been in operation for months, and even years, to break down the strongest barrier of the human heart, and work out its moral ruin, while yet the founder parents and friends have been unaware of the working of such unseen agents of evil. Children are more easily led to be good by examples of loving kindness and tales of well-doing in others than threatened into obedience by records of sin, crime, and punishment. Then strive to impress on the child's mind sincerity, truth, honesty, benevolence, and their kindred virtue, and the welfare of your child, not only for this life, but for the life to come, will be assured. What a responsibility it is to form a creature, the frailest and feeblest that heaven has made, into the intelligent and fearless sovereign of the whole animated universe, the interpreter, adorer, and most representative of divinity. There is much mistaken kindness in the management of children. The law of love is great, but it showeth not its full strength. Serve when united with kindness. Make your children helpful and useful, and you make them happy. Let them early form habits of neatness, and when you are weary, you will not have to wait on their carelessness. Teach them to give you courteous speech and manners, and they will live to honor you. Take pains to have the home attraction stronger than can come from outside influences. It is a sad fact that few children confide in their parents. The parent must take an interest in them, and draw them to their hearts instead of repelling them away. There is no mystery in attaching children to oneself. If you love them, they will love you. If you make much of them, they will make much of you. They can readily pick out the children's friend among many. They have a quick way of discerning who really love them and who care for them. Parents do not think how far a word of praise will oftentimes go with children. Praise is from child to a child, and there is no child who does not need it. It is the high reward of one's struggle to do right. Many a sensitive child hungers for commendation. Many a child starving for the praise which parents should give. run off eagerly after the designing flattery of others, to withhold praise where it is due is dishonest, and, in the case of a child, such a course often leaves a stinging sense of injustice. One may as well think to rear flowers in prose as to think of educating children successfully in rebuff and constant criticism. Judicious flattery is almost one of the necessities of existence with children. Indiscriminate flattery is, of course, bad. When it becomes necessary to reprove children, use the gentlest form of address under the circumstances. Reproof must not fall like a violent storm, breaking down and making those to droop whom it is meant to cherish and refresh. It must descend as the dew upon the tender herb, or, like melting flakes of snow, the softer it falls, the longer it dwells upon, and the deeper it sinks into the mind. Never reprove the little one before strangers, for children are as sensitive, if not more so, than older persons, and wish strangers to think well of them. When reproved before any one with whom they are not well acquainted, their vanity is wounded. They have self-respect, and such mortification of it is dangerous. Praise spurs a child on to earnest effort. Blame, when administered before visitors, takes away the power of doing well. It is the parents' duty to make their childhood full of love and childhood's proper joyousness. Not all the appliances that wealth can buy are necessary to the free and happy unfolding of childhood in body, mind, and heart. But children must have love inside the house, and fresh air and good play and companionship outside. Otherwise young life runs the danger of withering and growing stunted, or, at best, prematurely old and turned inward on itself. There is something in loving dependent children, in tender care of them, which bestows upon the soul the most enriching of its experience. They make us tender and sympathetic, and 1,000 times reward us for all we do for them. We are indebted to them for constant incentive to noble living, for the perpetual reminder that we do not live for ourselves alone. For their sake we are admonished to put from us the debasing appetite, the unworthy impulse to gather into our lives every noble and heroic quality, every tender and attractive grace. We owe them gratitude for the dark hour their presence has brightened, for the helplessness and dependence which have won us from ourselves, for the faith and trust which it is evermore their mission to renew, for their kisses, wet with tears, placed on brows that, but for their caressing, had furrowed into frowns. The gleeful laugh of happy children is the best home music, and the grateful figures of childhood are the best stationery. They are wellspring of pleasure, messengers of peace and love, resting places for innocent links between angels and men. Their eyes, those clear wells of undefiled thought, what is more beautiful, full of hope, love, and curiosity, than meet your own? In prayer how earnest, in joy how sparkling, in sympathy how tender! The man or woman who never tried the companionship of a little child has carelessly passed by one of the greatest pleasures of life, as one passes a rare flower without plucking or knowing its value. It is like a lantern and no candle, a garden and no flowers, a vine and no grapes, a brook and no water glittering and gushing in its channels. Nature affords striking proofs of foresight and wisdom in making the bounds of parental sympathy so invincible, strong, and lasting. During childhood and youth, and even afterwards, when these charming epochs of life have passed away, the ties of constancy and attachment continue to prevail. Were not the cords of love thus strengthened, they would frequently be snapped asunder. For the surest trails which the world knows are those which assail the parental heart and pierce it with the deepest sorrows. How fleeting are the happiness and innocent guilelessness of childhood! The years as they come bring with them intelligence and experience, but they take with them, in their resistless course, the innocent pleasures of childhood's year. Then deal gently, patiently, and kindly with them. You may be nearly over the rough pathway of life yourselves, Make the only time of life that they can call happy as pleasant as possible. Our children, says Madame de Staël, who are tenderly reared by us, are soon destined for others than ourselves. They soon stride rapidly forward in the career of life, while we fall slowly back, then soon begin to regard their parents in the light of memory, and to look upon others in the light of hope. They will not trouble you long. Children grow up. Nothing on earth grows so fast as children. It was but yesterday and that lad was playing with tops. A buoyant boy, he is a man now. There is no more childhood for him or for us. Life has claimed him. When the beginning is made, it is like a revealing stocking, stitch by stitch give way till all are gone. The house has not a child left in it. There is no more noise in the hall, no boys rushing pell-mell. It is very orderly now. There are no more skates or slates, bats, balls, or strings left scattered about. There are no more gleeful laugh of happy girls. There is no longer any task before you lie down. But the mother's heart is heavy, and the father's heart is lonely. End of chapter 6. Recording by Surocha Thawansun Suragun from Bangkok, Thailand.
Section 7 of the Golden Gems of Life. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Robert Drexler. The Golden Gems of Life by Emory, Adams, Allen, and S.C. Ferguson. Section 7, Brother and Sister. Brother and Sister. The affections that exist between the members of the same family afford a pleasing spectacle of human happiness. That which exists between brother and sister should be assiduously cultivated. It is a beautiful and loving feeling, and seems to be wholly angelic in its thoughts and feelings. It must necessarily be a pure spiritual love. It arises not from a sense of gratitude or for favors received or from anything save the endearing relationship of family. It rests not on anything but a spiritual affinity of soul. It should be cultivated as one of the sweetest plants in the garden of the heart. It should be watered every morning and evening with the dews of good nature and sunned all day with the light of kindness. It should hear nothing but loving and tender words, even the dulcet music of home, see nothing but smiles and the tokens of confidence and sympathy, and know nothing but its own spirit of tenderness and unity. How large and cherished a place does a good sister's love always hold in the grateful memory of one who has been blessed with the benefit of this relation. How many are there who, in the changes of mature years, have found a sister's love their ready and adequate resource? With what a sense of security is confidence reposed in a good sister, and with what assurance that it will be uprightly and considerately given is her counsel sought. How intimate is the friendship of such a brother and sister, not widely separated in age from one another. What a reliance for warning, caution, and sympathy has each secured in each. How many are the brothers who, when thrown into circumstances of temptation, have found the thought of a sister's love a constant holy presence, rebuking every wayward thought. How many brothers are there from whom death separated the sister years ago, who yet feel her influence thrown around them like sweet incense from an unseen censer, who are arrested when just about to take a downward step by the memory of a reproving look from eyes that have long been closed, who have pursued their weary path of duty, cheered by the remembrance of a smile from lips that will never smile again. Who can tell the thoughts that cluster around the word sister? How ready she is to forgive the foibles of a brother. She never deserts him. In adversity she clings closely to him, and in trial she cheers him. When the bitter voice of reproach is poured in his ears, she is ever ready to hush its hard tones, and to turn his attention away from its painful notes. Let him move in pleasant paths, She hangs clusters of flowers about him. In watching his favored career and listening to his eulogy, she feels the purest satisfaction. The cold grave cannot crush her affections for him. It outlives her tears and sighs, and hence she often wanders to the spot where he reposes with a fragrant rosebush and creeping honeysuckle, and plants them on his tomb. And who will dare to affirm her love perishes when he passes away from earth? May it not live far off in glorious land, increasing in fervor and intensity as the years of eternity pass away? Affection does not beget weakness, nor is it effeminate for a brother to be firmly attached to a sister. Such a boy will make a noble and brave man. The young man who was accustomed to kiss his sweet, innocent sister night and morning as they met shows its influence upon him. He will never forget it, and when he shall take someone to his heart as his wife, she shall reap the golden fruits thereof. The young man who is in the habit of giving his arm to his sister as they walk to and from church will never leave his wife to find her way as best she can. He who has been trained to see that his sister was seated before he sought his own will never mortify a neglected wife in the presence of strangers. And the young man who frequently handed his sister to her chair at the table will never have cause to blush as he sees some gentleman extend to his wife the courtesy she knows is due from him. The intercourse of brother and sister forms an important element in the happy influence of home. A boisterous or a selfish boy may try to domineer over the weaker or more dependent girl, but generally the latter exerts a softening influence. The brother animates and heartens. The sister modifies and refines. The vine tree and its sustaining elm are the emblems of such a relation, and by such agencies our sons may become like plants grown up in youth, and our daughters like cornerstones polished after the similitude of a temple. Sisters scarcely know the influence they have over their brothers. A young man is pretty much what his sister and young lady friends choose to make him. If sisters are watchful and affectionate, they may in various ways lead them along till their characters are formed, and then a high respect for ladies and a manly self-respect will keep them from mingling in low society. Girls, especially those who are members of a large family, have a great influence at home, where brothers delight in their sisters, and where parents look fondly down on their daughters. Girls have much in their power with regard to those boys. They have in their power to make them gentler, truer, purer, to give them higher opinion of women, to soften their manner and ways, to tone down rough places, and shape sharp, angular corners. They should interest themselves in their pursuits, and show them by every means in their power that they do not consider them and their doings beneath their notice. But few sisters realize how much they have to do with the welfare of their brothers, how much it is in their power to win them to the right modes of thoughts and actions by little acts of sisterly attentions. If they would but spare an hour now and then from their peculiar employment to their boyish sports, and not turn contemptuously away from the books and amusements in which they delight, they would soon find how a gentle word would turn off a sharp answer, how a genial look would effectually reprove an unfitting expression, how gratefully a small kindness would be received, and how unbounded would be the power for good they would obtain by a continuance of such conduct. Fortunate is the family that possesses such an elder sister. The mother confides in her, the father takes pride in her ability to aid and cheer the household, and the younger ones lean upon her. By her counsels, her example, her influence, she may do as much as the parents to give to the family life. She is at once companion and counselor for the younger members, since separated by only a brief interval from the sports of childhood, she can sympathize easily with the little wants and the little griefs that fill the child's heart to overflowing, and show it how to compass its desires and forget its sorrows. A short girlhood is usually the allotment of the oldest daughter, but this is more than made up to her in the long and delightful companionship she has with her mother, in the sense she is made to have of her own importance in the family, and the unusual capability she is obliged by the forces of circumstances to acquire and display. It is a law of our being that no improvement that takes place in either of the sexes is confined to itself. Each is the universal mirror to each, and the refinements of the one will always be in reciprocal proportion to the polish of the other. The brother and sister should grow up together, be educated at the same school, engage in the same sports, and as far as practicable, in the same labors. Their joys and sorrows, tastes and aims, should be mutual as far as possible. The same moral lessons, obligations, and duties should bear upon them. It is an error that the youths of our land are separated in so many of the most important duties of life. Much evil is caused by mistaken opinions on this point. The girls are taught that it is not pretty to be with the boys, and the boys that it is not manly to be with the girls, while at the same time the society of each is necessary for the best development of character in the other. When they do meet, it is only for sport and nonsense, to cajole and deceive each other. Hence the good influence they should have upon each other is in great measure lost. They are unacquainted with each other, know not each other's natures, and have but little interest in each other's business and duties. We want the girls to rival the boys in all that is good, refined, and ennobling. We want them to rival the boys, as they well can, in learning, in understanding, in all noble qualities of mind and heart, but not in any of the rougher qualities and traits. We want the girls to be gentle, not weak, but gentle, and kind and affectionate. We want to be sure that wherever a girl is, there should be a sweet, subduing, and harmonizing influence of purity and truth and love, pervading and hallowing from center to circumference the entire circle in which she moves. It is her mission to instruct the boys in all needful lessons of neatness and order, of patience and goodness. We want the boys to be gentle, courteous, and considerate towards their younger sisters, to be the protector and emulator of their virtues. We want to be sure that where there is a boy, there will go forth the influence inspired by the courage of manly self-respect, a respect that keeps him from mingling in low society. We want him to be every whit a man, a fit friend and companion for true womanhood. We want to see them both enjoy the springtime of life, for this is the season of joy, of bliss, of strength, of pride. It is the treasury of life, in which nature stores up those riches which are for our future employment and profit. Youth is to age what flower is to the fruit, the leaf to the tree, the sand to the glass. Hence we want to see them both so using the golden age of youth as to be able to reap a rich harvest in the years of maturity. End of section 7. Section 8 of the Golden Gems of Life. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Robert Drexler. The Golden Gems of Life by Emory, Adams, Allen, and S. C. Ferguson. Section 8. Manhood. Manhood is the isthmus between two extremes, the ripe, the fertile season of action when alone we can hope to find the head to contrive united with the hand to execute. Each age has its peculiar duties and privileges, pleasures and pains. When young, we trust ourselves too much. When old, we trust others too little. Rashness is the error of youth, timid caution of age. In youth we build castles and plan for ourselves a course of action through life. As we approach old age, we see more and more plainly that we are simply carried forward by a mighty torrent, borne here and there against our will. We then perceive how little control we have had in reality over our course, that our actions, resolves, and endeavors, which seem to give such a guiding course to our life, are but eddies of the mighty stream that rolls to its appointed end. In childhood, time goes by on leaden wings, 10, 20 years. A lifetime seems an endless period. At manhood, we are surprised that time goes so rapidly. We then comprehend the fleeting period of life. In old age, the years that are past seem as a dream of the night, our life as a tale nearly told. Childhood is the season of dreams and high resolves, manhood of plans and actions, age of retrospection and regret. There is certainly no age more potential for good or evil than that of early manhood. The young men have, with much propriety, been denominated the flower of a country. To be a man and seem to be one are two different things. All young men should carefully consider what is meant by manhood. It does not consist in years simply, nor in form and figure. It lies above and beyond these things. It is the product of the cultivation of every power of the soul, and of every high spiritual quality naturally inherent or graciously supplemented. It should be the great object of living to attain this true manhood. There is no higher pursuit for the youth to propose to himself. He is standing at the opening gates of active life. There he catches the first glimpse of the possibilities in store for him. There he first perceives the duties that will shortly devolve upon him. What higher aim can he propose to himself than to act his part in life as becomes a man who lives not only for time but for eternity? How earnestly should he resolve to walk worthily in all that true manhood requires? There are certain claims, great and weighty, resting upon all young men, which they cannot shake off if they would. They grow out of those indissoluble relations which they sustain to society, and those invaluable interests, social, civil, and religious, with all the duties and responsibilities connected with them, which are soon to be transferred to their shoulders from the venerable fathers who have borne the burden and the heat of the day, the various departments of business and trust, the pulpit and the bar, our courts of justice and halls of legislation, our civil, religious, and literary institutions, all in short that constitute society and go to make life useful and happy, are to be in their hands and under their control. Society, in committing to the young her interests and privileges, imposes upon them corresponding claims and demands that they be prepared to fill with honor and usefulness the places which they are destined to occupy. Young men cannot take a rational view of the station to which they are advancing, or of the duties that are coming upon them, without feeling deeply their need of high and peculiar qualifications. Every young man should come forward in life with a determination to do all the good he can, and to leave the world the better for his having lived in it. He should consider that he was not made for himself alone, but for society, for mankind, and for God. He should consider that he is a constituent, responsible member of the great family of man, and while he should pay particular attention to the wants and welfare of those with whom he is immediately connected, he should accustom himself to send his thoughts abroad over the wide field of practical benevolence. There is within the young man an uprising of lofty sentiments which contribute to his elevation, and though there are obstacles to be surmounted and difficulties to be vanquished, yet with truth for his watchword, and relying on his own noble purposes and exertions, he may crown his brow with imperishable honors. He may never wear the warrior's crimson wreath, the poet's chaplet of bays, or the statesman's laurels, though no grand universal truth may at his bidding stand confessed to the world, though it may never be his to bring to a successful issue a great political revolution, to be the founder of a republic which shall be a distinguished star in the constellation of nations, even more though his name may never be heard beyond the narrow limits of his own neighborhood, yet is his mission none the less a high and noble one. In the moral and physical world, not only the field of battle, but also the cause of truth and virtue, calls for champions, and the field for doing good is white unto the harvest. If he enlists in the ranks, and his spirits faint not, he may write his name among the stars of heaven. Beautiful lives have blossomed in the darkest places, as pure white lilies, full of fragrance, sometimes bloom on the slimy, stagnant waters. No possession is so productive of real influence as a highly cultivated intellect. Wealth, birth, and official station may and do secure an external superficial courtesy, but they never did and never can secure the reverence of the heart. It is only to the man of large and noble soul, to him who blends a cultivated mind with an upright heart, that men yield the tribute of deep and genuine respect. A man should never glory in that which is common to a beast, nor a wise man in that which is common to a fool, nor a good man in that which is common to a wicked man. Since it is in the intellect that we trace the source of all that is great and noble in man, it follows that if any are ambitious to possess a true manhood, they will be men of reflection, men whose daily acts are controlled by their judgment, men who recognize the fact that life is a real and earnest affair, that time is fleeting, and consequently resolve to waste none of it in frivolities, men whose life and conversation are indicative of that serious mien and deportment which well becomes those who have great interest committed to their charge, and who are determined that insofar as in them lies life with them shall be a success, who fully realize the importance of every step they may take, and consequently bring to it the careful consideration of a mind trained to think with precision. The man who thinks, reads, studies, and meditates has intelligence cut in his features, stamped on his brow, and gleaming in his eye. Thinking, not growth, makes perfect manhood. There are some who, though they are done growing, are only boys. The constitution may be fixed while the judgment is immature. The limbs may be strong while the reasoning is feeble. Many who can run and jump and bear any fatigue cannot observe, cannot examine, cannot reason or judge, contrive or execute. They do not think. Such persons, though they may have the figure of a man and the years of a man, are not in possession of manhood. They will not acquire it until they learn to look beyond the present and take broad and comprehensive views of their relations to society. As we often mistake glittering tinsel for solid gold, so we often mistake specious appearances for true worth and manhood. We are too prone to take professions and words in lieu of actions, too easily impressed with good clothes and polite bearings to inquire into the character and doings of the individual. Man should be rated not by his hoards of gold, not by the simple or temporary influence he may for a time exert, but by his unexceptional principles relative both to character and religion. Strike out these, and what is he? A savage without sympathy. Take them away, and his manship is gone. He no longer lives in the image of his Creator. No smile gladdens his lips, no look of sympathy illumes his countenance to tell of love and charity for the woes of others. But let man go abroad with just principles, and what is he? An exhaustless fountain in a vast desert, a glorious sun, shining ever, dispelling every vestige of darkness. There is love animating his heart, sympathy breathing in every tone. Tears of pity, dewdrops of the soul, gather in his eye and gush impetuously down his cheek. A good man is abroad, and the world knows and feels it. Beneath his smile lurks no degrading passion. Within his heart there slumbers no guile. He is not exalted in mortal pride, not elevated in his own views, but honest, moral, and virtuous before the world. He stands throned on truth. His fortress is wisdom, and his dominion is the vast and limitless universe. Always upright, kind, and sympathizing, always attached to just principles, and actuated by the same, governed by the highest motives in doing good. These constitute his only true manliness. End of section 8.